Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Stacey West preview show. I'm your host, Jake. We're back for another preview this week. It's Burton away on Saturday. Another man making his hat trick of appearances on the Stacey West channel, Ed Walker. How you doing, Ed?
You really the hat trick?
Yeah, you was on twice. You was on twice last year.
Oh yeah, I've tried to forget last season for obvious reasons. Yeah, I suppose it is. Yeah, really happy to be back on.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you. Obviously, the most vocal Burton man on Twitter. Just talking about, obviously, you're a bit of a League Two expert. You go to all sorts of grounds and games. How are you finding going back to football? Is it a lot better than what you thought it was going to be like 6 months ago?
Oh, I've missed it a lot.
Yeah,
I've really missed it a lot. It was the thing I kind of hated about last season. You know, it was. I suppose one of the positives of last season was that I spent a lot less money. You know, the cost of buying tickets and all the travel, and it was only like a tenner for the games, but it's really just not the same as being there. And you already notice having the crowds back is so fun. Like one of the things I always quite like doing if you ever see replays of matches is just watching the reaction of the crowd to like a foul or a kick or a decision going somewhere. I find it really funny. Just being back in that again, it's really fun. I've really missed it. It's great.
And you're off on your travels again this weekend, aren't you?
Yeah, I've been all over the place recently. I'm trying to work my way back through. I'm hoping to be off to Harrogate Town against Stevenage. I wanted to do Harrogate last season, being EFL New Boys, but the opportunity never came. So, like to take the opportunity this time to do it, certainly.
Hopefully, Jack Muldoon manages to get a few goals. Right.
I hope so as well.
One thing that we probably should talk about. We just discussed it a little bit off air before we came on. It's not even related to Lincoln or Burton at all. It's related to Pep Guardiola and his comments about under-23s and the fact that he feels that they should be involved in playing against League One sort of calibre sides every week. I've seen you tweet about this already. Just interested to get your take on the matter and what you really think about it.
I don't think there's anyone in the Football League that's in favour of it, really, are there? It's this kind of attitude, I think, that you see with a lot of these elite English sides, that their development of their players matters more than anything else. That they need to have the highest quality, that they can hoard as many of these young talents as they can, and that because they're not able to develop them enough at under 23 stuff, well, they should get the chance to put them in the lower leagues, and they're not really thinking about, you know, the damage that would cause to the pyramid system. You think about the EFL Trophy we got at the moment with those under 21 teams in there. They're breaking clubs' lowest attendances to the games. No one's interested in them, or rightly so, because there's no appeal in watching a 21 side compared to if it was, for instance, the first team that went to Lincoln. So I think you'd see that again. I do agree that it would cause a lot of damage, certainly, to the pyramid in that sense. I also don't really understand where Pep Guardiola seems to have this idea from, that England needs to do what they do in Germany and Spain, because Germany and Spain do have B teams in their pyramid. They have second teams and B teams in there that are low down the pyramid. And the idea is that he seems to think that we need to do that in order to compete with them on international stage. Well, haven't we just made the final of the Euros? Haven't we just brought together this brilliant group of players that look really capable of competing with anyone? I think we've been slowly developing this kind of pathway to players for a while. It's been over the course of the last few years that we've understood the idea of player development and getting them up to this high standard. You're seeing the rewards coming through now. We don't need to put B teams in the pyramid for that to continue. I really don't understand why he's going with this.
And you're looking at clubs like ours, you know, Burton and Lincoln, especially Lincoln last year, sort of benefiting of having these sort of young players on loan, aren't they? Without them coming.
There's always the demand for them. There always will be. I think most clubs. There's a couple I think that don't have loans this season, but every club benefits from that loan player. It's a win-win for all the clubs. The parent club gets to benefit from that player developing and understanding a more technical side of the adult game, and they can sometimes help that club towards promotion or a survival or whatever it is. It can really progress. It helps all parties. I don't see anything wrong with the loan system at all. I just wish, you know, I think some clubs at the highest level still insist that they contribute towards their wages, which some of these clubs can't do, and that's the reason why some of these players perhaps don't go out on loan as much as they should.
Yeah, that's quite a nice segue then into Burton, the summer transfer window. Just really how the new lads getting on. Could you give us sort of like a bit of a preview? Was it as busy as, because I remember last January or this January was a bit hectic for you guys, wasn't it? After the defeat at Central Bank and the sacking of your manager. A bit less quiet, a bit more quiet this time, was it?
Even more busy.
Oh, right.
Even more busy. I think it was 12 that came in January, which was needed because of the situation they were in.
Yeah.
16 in the summer, including a number outgoing as well. So it was a massive squad overhaul, and everyone was really encouraged by it. The main thing they were doing was bringing in a high number of players, sort of young 22, 23, 24, 25, people who were either approaching their prime or a couple of people in the late 20s who were in it already on these long-term deals. And you could tell there was this long-term objective to go and start competing with the sides that you typically expect to be up at the top of League One this season, and potentially maybe even this year, depending on what happens. We're still quite early days in the season. So that was always really encouraging. I always felt to me at the start of that summer window that the priority was replacing the loan players who were going back out because they'd had a real good part in increasing survival. They've not only done that, they've added to it. This Burton squad, when fully fit, has got brilliant depth in all areas. And we haven't really been able to say that about Burton for years, to be honest. It was never like that under Clough. Clough had this insistence about having players that could play in a variety of positions so he could cover with the personnel that were in there. Under Hasselbank and Marmara, it feels like there's 2 or 3 individual options in every position. And the depth is just something I've not seen before, which is really nice to say.
And how are they sort of finding? Are there any players that stand out over the summer that you brought in and have hit the ground running, like the biggest impact? Yeah,
there's a few. I think the big frustrating thing for us as Burton at the minute is we haven't got to see everyone yet. You know, we brought in Louis Moult, a striker from Preston North End, who'd had a long period out injured whilst with Preston. Part of the reason he dropped down, he got injured in pre-season and is unavailable till the new year. So he's essentially going to feel like a January sign now, even if it could be really impactful in that forward position. We're yet to see a full strength Burton Albion side, one with full squad selection available, and it probably won't be that until the new year now. So we're still kind of left puzzled as to what the actual full strength 11 is. And it's felt like they've been picking up an injury every other game at the moment. They've lost a number of people, particularly in the forward and the deep midfield positions. They were starting the season without a recognised striker. They haven't used someone like Amari Patrick up there as more naturally a winger. They have got Kane Hemmings back in now, who's able to fill that role. But they still feel like we're lacking options in deep midfield, and there's a bit of a drop in the depth between what to me would be the starters in that position and then the people who played, for instance, against Crewe, which against Crewe in the last week was a natural left back and a guy who was pretty uninspiring at the last 2 clubs he's been at, to be honest. And there was a bit of a difference. And it feels like if we had the option of being full strength in position, we could probably go toe-to-toe with anyone, because we did at the start of the season.
Yeah, it was a good start to the year, wasn't it, really? Dino and Jimmy sort of got your heart flying towards the top end of the table. As you look at this time last year, you guys were really struggling. Talk to us a little bit about the progression then under Dino and Jimmy. How's it sort of moved along over the last sort of 12 months or so?
Well, I get the sense what they're trying to do is put a bit more of a style on. You know, last season we were just a nightmare to play against. That was the whole point. It was all about defensive ruggedness. We'll aim for the clean sheet. We're going to make use of this long throw that Tom Amer has to score a few goals out of that. We just need to get enough points to survive, and they did that, and they did it quite comfortably in the end. Now the aim, I think, is on providing a bit more of a style that can be a bit more useful in League One and start pushing towards the top places. It's not been that good in the last 2 weeks, especially compared to the start of the season. I don't know necessarily whether injuries have played a part in that, or maybe the wrong setup to certain games, the wrong substitutions to games. I feel like if the squad was had been able to be full strength every game, as good as it was on the opening day, it probably would be a better position than it is now. But there's definitely a sense to me that they're trying to become a bit more than just this direct side that makes use of set pieces. There wants to be a bit more to open play this season.
You mentioned that Crewe game there, 2-0 defeat for you guys. What went wrong really? What sort of happened? Because obviously, as we mentioned, you guys started off quite well. And Crewe, I believe, was that Crewe's first win of the season as well?
Unfortunately, it was.
Talk to us a little bit about that. And obviously, a side that hadn't won and they managed to turn you over. It looked like quite convincingly as well.
Yeah, I was at it. I was really disappointed. The big problem for me was the gaps in midfield. We play this 4-2-3-1, and it's really important when you're in that system that you don't create too big a gap between your deeper midfielders and your attacking midfielder, because it just leaves a load of space, and it's really difficult to get the ball through to without sending it direct, which Crewe centre-halves would happily deal with against a player like Kane Hemmings, who isn't the biggest around, to be honest. Yeah. So the gaps were enormous. And Crewe's midfield, team known for their midfielders, Scott Robertson, one of the new signings on loan from Celtic, is a great midfielder. They just went straight through it. Yeah. Straight through the middle of it, up to the box, had good attacking threat, like Janil Bennett out on the wing, who I think is on loan from Tottenham Hotspur. They were really comfortable, and Burton just looked so poor in possession. And I think a part of that was the two midfielders. Like I said, we were playing Cameron Borthwick-Jackson there, who's a natural left back, And I think he's been put in there because he's a left-footed option in midfield, even though he's not a midfielder to me. He's a wide player, sure. And then Bryn Morris, who anyone who saw him at Portsmouth and Northampton would agree is pretty average at best, if that. Compare him to some of the players who could be sitting there, people like maybe Desio Jalaja or Tom O'Connor, who I'd say were probably the two main starters, certainly were at the start of the season before they got injured and unavailable. It could well have been a different story yesterday. They were just super ineffective. And the moment they went down to 10 men as well, losing Charlie Lakin early on, it just went downhill, really, and they didn't have a chance to compete with them.
We'll take your mind off the defeat from Saturday. We'll talk about some players that have played for both clubs, especially one that you've got on your books in a minute. I think we spoke about him last year as well, Michael Bostwick. Just tell us that you love him already. He's fantastic, isn't he? Is that what you're going to tell me?
I think the jury's a bit still out on him, to be honest. I think that, Bostwick's not what he was. We have to admit that. He is in his 30s now. You and Posh probably got the best of him.
Yeah.
He's still an absolute monster. And he is the target of these really ineffective long throws we've been having this season, where we're trying to basically throw it towards the front post, where Bostwick is getting a flick on, sending it across the box, and someone's just getting on tap in.
Yeah.
But it's all about him winning the first ball. And if he's doubled up, it's hard enough for him anyway. He's also quite persistent with these diagonal passes to try and hit the wingers, which I get why he does it, because it can force really stretch to play. But the amount of times that were mishit at Crewe just looked really ineffective, and Crewe were dealing with that really well. So I feel like Bostwick's probably not a first choice centre half in a lot of people's eyes. We've got people like Ryan Leake, who's really impressed since being on trial at the club. Sam Hughes is back as well, who wasn't on loan at Burton last season, picked up an injury, unfortunately, before the end of his loan spell, which really affected that. And I feel like alongside Connor Shaughnessy, a lot of fans would probably say those are the three centre halves they'd want to see going forwards rather than Bostwick. So, Bostwick brings a bit of experience, but I can't really see him staying beyond this season, I don't think.
Are we likely to see Bozzy line up for you guys on Saturday?
Well, he's been playing the last two games. I think it depends on fitness. I imagine he'll probably want him in there because it's weird at the minute, because the back four essentially at times has been quite a younger pair in Tom Hamer and Connor Shaughnessy on the left-hand side, and then Michael Bostwick and John Brayton on the right-hand side. So youth on one side and experience on the other. I think there's a good chance. I don't know if Ryan Leake's back fit or not, or whether he'll bring him back in, because Leake is still fairly inexperienced in terms of EFL football, so he might want a bit more experience in that centre half to partner Shaughnessy. So I think there's a chance. And
then Danny Rowe, obviously, another one that was with you last year. I'm not sure if he's still with you.
He is. He re-signed, I can't remember if it's a 1 year deal. I think it was a 1 year deal, might have been a 2 year deal. He's been quite a bit part. He seems to be a kind of a substitute bench option in the wide areas. I don't think he's really done that much this season compared to what he did last year. He's quite effective as a wide or attacking midfield option. We've got a lot of people that can take those positions. Yeah. And at the minute, the starting wingers are always Lucas Akins and Johnny Smith because of their work rate both on and off the ball. Yeah. So at the minute, anyone else who comes in is really brought on as an impact sub. And it's not often him, it's often other attacking players as well, like Joe Powell. So he's been a bit part this season.
Yeah, Danny Rowe doesn't strike you as a player to really work hard and graft. He tends to be just going forward. Let's talk about the last meeting that the last two clubs had then, obviously, towards the back. Well, this is the good one, Ed, because you didn't concede 5 goals.
It wasn't the good one. They were both defeats. There was no good one in it.
TJ overscoring the only goal of the game. Oh. Complete the league double against Burton last year. Did you get to watch it on iFollow? Did you? Because I felt that was the game. Once we won it, I thought, right, that's it. That's the playoffs now. That's pretty much us in the playoffs confirmed. Do you remember anything from it? Or
I didn't watch it. I saw it back. I think I remember saying to you at the time, I said, I fancied you to win it because you need it more. At the time we were clear of the bottom four. It was just a matter of when, not if, for securing survival. Lincoln pushing for that top 2 spot, at least the playoff spot. I always felt needed that win more, and they ended up getting in the end. It was certainly an improvement on the time they met Sincil Bank. But I can't remember the last time Burton beat Lincoln. I mean, it's been a while since Burton probably played Lincoln in a lot of seasons. We've been in different leagues for a lot of time until last year, but I can't remember the last time Burton beat Lincoln. I don't really feel very positive about Lincoln games at the moment because I know how good that squad is.
Because we did the double over the year before as well.
Yeah, that was really
the last game before COVID.
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
I won the last one. It was second to last to Burton, but it might have been to Lincoln.
Yeah, fantastic game that was. So let's see if we can get your thoughts on Lincoln then this year. I know you speak about them quite a bit on the D3D4 podcast. Have you sort of been a bit uninspired by our start?
You seem to have been a bit slow at the blocks, haven't you?
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what that is. I don't know if there's maybe, I haven't been checking the squad fully. I don't know if there's maybe a bit of squad selection issues at the moment. Maybe some people unavailable.
Yeah.
But I just have, I made the mistake last season of underestimating Michael Appleton. I'm not doing that ever again. I'm just not doing it anymore. When you lose people like Brennan Johnson and Morgan Rogers, it is going to affect you a bit because they were absolutely quality last year. But I'm quite keen on Lewis Thiorini, and I love that Anthony Scully's found his storm because I think he's wicked last year and really underrated because of the others that were there. So I have faith they'll come good. It just feels like they're a bit of a slow starter, but there's a couple that have been so far, and there's still no chance that can change.
Just the 16 goal contributions for Anthony Scully so far this year.
Incredible.
So I'll keep your eye out on Saturday.
I'm terrified.
what we're thinking then ahead of the game on Saturday? How we expecting this to go? Because obviously you guys come into it above us in the league table. Admittedly, you lost your last one, as did we. Are you sort of expecting a home win, or are you thinking this might play out a bit differently?
I just want to win again, to be honest. We haven't won a game since the win over Sunderland, which was towards the end of August. I think it's been, 5 games without a win. And when you go on, you know how it is, when you go on that winner's run, you think, oh, when's this stopping?
Yeah. Because
you kind of get a bit worried. And the performances have been pretty poor since then. I do think the injuries have maybe played a part in that, but ever since they played, the 5? They played Cambridge, Cheltenham, Bolton, Gillingham, and Crewe, and not really looked that convincing for the full 90 minutes in any of them. And they managed to take 3 points from that time, which is respectable. But you're playing Lincoln. If you're not on the game for 90 minutes, you can kiss goodbye to any points as far as I'm concerned. So we really do need to start turning this around because people are getting a bit worried that this winless run's going to carry on a bit.
I think the pod listeners will quite like what you just said there, Ed, to be honest. Score prediction then, can we chuck you? Can you throw yourself? I mean, obviously there's no Tyler Walker, there's no Morgan Rogers or Brennan Johnson to scare you this time.
Yeah, but there is Anthony Scully.
There is Anthony Scully, that is correct. Yeah.
That's all you need. I'm still haunted by that 5-1, even if this is at the Pirelli this time rather than Central Bank.
Fingers crossed we can have something similar then.
No, I hope not. I don't know. I don't like doing these predictions because they never ever go as you want them to. This is the kind of game, to be honest, where if I look at the full-time score when I'm at Harrogate and I see a draw, I'm going to be over the moon. By the way, it's one of those. I feel like this and Oxford. I feel like Lincoln and Oxford. I feel like are the perfect. What's the word? Is it antagonist to what Burton play? I don't quite know the word.
Yeah.
But like the style they play is the perfect opposite to what Burton play, like the perfect counter to it.
Yeah.
So that's why the games against them this season, I'm not really that looking forward to be honest. So I kind of
sitting on the fence, Ed. Surely
I don't want to sound pessimistic, but I kind of think Lincoln are going to win.
Fingers crossed then. Thanks again for coming on, Ed. Your insight is literally not even, it's not even, it doesn't compare to anybody else. Anything you'd like to plug? Obviously, the pod. You said you're working for a sports company as well. If you just wanted to plug anything at all.
Yeah, I'll be happy to plug D3D4 to those who aren't aware. We are recording pods every single Sunday after the games. We go through all the games in League 1 and League 2, provide the coverage that you just don't get with the major media outlets who are so focused on the Premier League or the Championship or the top leagues of England. We try to provide a bit of voice to that. A lot of Lincoln talk, of course, because my co-host James is a massive Michael Appleton fan and won't ever shut up about him every time. You could have a bet if I had a pound every time you mention Michael Appleton on a pod, I'd be rich. He can't stop talking about him. He's a huge fan. A lot of praise to Lincoln last season. Hope that it will be as well when they start picking up this year, because I'm sure they will at some point.
Well, thank you again, Ed, for coming on. I'm sure we'll send you the match ball in the post. Thank you, everybody else, for watching, and we'll see you next week.